This week, Trivial Pursuit Silver Screen Edition. We'll pick the movie. So I'll grab a random card from the middle of the deck, and we'll do some random questions. The first one that I get wrong that's about a particular movie, I'll watch the movie. And you have to watch it too, okay? Now, we may skip it if I've already seen the movie or if I can't find the movie, but let's see how it goes. Okay. What southwestern city saw Alice get to work as a singer in Alice Doesn't Live Here Anymore? Uh-oh. We may be watching this movie unless I can randomly guess. Southwestern. Well, Phoenix. Oh, it actually is Phoenix. Okay, well, we dodged a bullet. We're not watching that. What 1964 musical was about the orphaned Molly who grew up as determined to become a member of Denver society? Molly. 1964 musical. Is it the unsinkable Molly Brown? It is. Okay, we've dodged another one. What comedian received honorary Oscars in 1940, 1944, 1952, and 1965? Well, this isn't a movie, so we won't be watching this, but I would guess maybe it's Bob Hope. Yeah, it is. Okay. Whose wife, Shakira, probably not that Shakira, whose wife, Shakira, shared the screen with him as Roxanne in 1975's The Man Who Would Be King? Oh. Well, I have seen this movie, so I don't think we're doing this. We're not doing a video on this. I've seen the movie, and I didn't think it was very good, to be honest. So Sean Connery is in that, but was Sean Connery married to someone named Shakira? I doubt it, but I forget who else is in that. There's a couple other big names. Michael Caine. Okay, Michael Caine was married to Shakira. Who knew? Who got started? Maybe that was the character's name? I'm not really sure exactly what the heck they're talking about here. Anyway, who got started on a long career of double entendres by debuting in Night After Night? A long career of double entendres. Well, Night After Night. Okay. I think I'm going to allow myself two guesses here. Nah, I'll just guess Mae West, okay? Yeah, it is Mae West. Didn't need to. Okay. Who played the title role in the 1964 musical, The Unsinkable Molly Brown? Oh, no. It's come back. I thought we dodged The Unsinkable Molly Brown. A movie, I think, about someone who was on the Titanic. But who is in it? Who is in it? Well, I think it might be Debbie Reynolds. So let's see if we can dodge it again. Yeah, it is Debbie Reynolds. So not today, Unsinkable Molly Brown. We're on to another card. What Michael Cimino film opened and ended in Clairton, Pennsylvania? Okay, well, almost certainly that's going to be The Deer Hunter, right? Which I've already seen. Yeah, it is. Okay. What 1977 film did Jaqueline Bisset apparently think was one big wet t-shirt contest? These cards are a little dated, okay? Unfortunately, I think it's somewhat likely that we're going to end up watching this movie, because I'm not sure what they're talking about here. 1977 film with Jaqueline Bisset in it. Well, I'm not sure. She's not in the swimming pool. Okay, well, unless I've seen this we'll be watching it. The Deep. Okay. I can't really recommend this as a way to pick which movie to watch. I also can't really recommend The Deep. The Deep is okay. It's not very interesting. That question goes absolutely crazy. That Trivial Pursuit question. One big wet t-shirt contest. What did they mean by that? Well, if you watch The Deep, you will know what they meant. You will get the picture almost immediately. In fact, you only need to watch the first 5 minutes or so because they're really only referring to the opening scene. Now, I don't like that they worded the question to suggest that this was Jaqueline Bisset's idea, because it absolutely was not Jaqueline Bisset's idea, and she was pretty unhappy with the way that things played out. There's some quote from the producer of The Deep. He said that t-shirt made him so rich. The story here is that in addition to the t-shirt in the opening scene, they also promoted the scene with a PR still from that scene with that shirt. Bisset apparently didn't agree to this particular photo being released. They didn't show it to her, maybe, but they showed it to everybody else. It caused a big stir. Apparently, they also organized wet t-shirt contests to promote the movie. Pretty tasteful stuff. I was stumped by this question, but back in 1981, it might have actually been a relatively easy question because I think this was a big thing at the time in 1977 when the movie came out. Maybe a lot of people had heard about this. Now, The Deep is oversexed, without a doubt, and it is fundamentally commercial. The two things we really celebrate on this channel. We'll talk about both of those. We'll talk about both those aspects. First of all, though, if you've never heard of The Deep, if you've never seen The Deep, all you need to do is picture Jaws. But instead of Robert Shaw playing the grizzled captain, just imagine Robert Shaw playing the grizzled captain. They copy and pasted him. They done copied and pasted Robert Shaw. Well, no copy paste in 1977. 1977, is that just 2 years after the release of Jaws? Indeed it is. Actually, I should set the record straight here. Copy and paste did exist in 1977. It debuted in the Gypsy word processor on the Xerox Alto. That came out in 1975. 1975, is that the year that Jaws came out? Indeed it is. What a coincidence. Anyway, the concept, arguably the concept of copying and pasting actually came around before. Maybe that's as old as time itself, to copy and to paste, Well, glue was invented before clocks. Arguably, it's older than time. Okay, whatever. Anyway, Jaqueline Bisset is in the movie. Of course, you've realized that by now. This is your annual reminder that Jaqueline Bisset is British, not French. Nick Nolte is in the movie too. He's not either one of those things. Eli Wallach is also in the film. These guys are all fine, but Robert Shaw is kind of the only reason to watch The Deep. Kind of the only thing in this movie that is okay. Yes, he is doing the same thing again, but he was meant to do it. He is great. In a way, this character is more nuanced than Quint. Well, maybe, but there's also some parts that are pretty overwritten and some things that just don't really add up at all. I'll point out some of the many, many places where the movie isn't rigorous as we go forward. Obviously, this movie is trying to capitalize on Jaws. So is it just a cheap ripoff? Yes, but at least it is based on a book. Based on a book written by Peter Benchley. You might know Peter Benchley's previous book, which was called Jaws. I think it's about sharks or something like that. Yes, Jaws, the movie, was based on a book. Today, nobody is going to have read the book Jaws, but at the time, I think it was pretty well known, pretty famous. Now, the studio, I believe, bought the rights to Benchley's next book before it had even been written, and that is how we ended up with this movie. Does that make things more egregious or less egregious? Well, I don't really know. I mentioned some of the marketing stunts already. Jaws is usually described as the first summer blockbuster, the first movie to get such a wide simultaneous release. It's interesting how this is conflated with Steven Spielberg's amazing directorial vision. I'll leave you to separate those things. But with The Deep, it seems like they wanted to take things a step further with marketing, which, well, I guess that's something we've all gotten used to since then, but the whole thing kind of leaves a bad taste in your mouth, I suppose. The Deep is set in Bermuda. We'll talk about Bermuda in a little bit. It follows two amateur divers who dive on a spooky wreck and become embroiled in some kind of mystery. I don't like summarizing the plot on this channel, so that's all I'll tell you. It is a pretty engaging movie, I guess. It's a little bit more of a horror movie than Jaws. It has a couple of jump scares in it, but they are fish-based, so I'm not sure that really counts. Obviously, The Deep doesn't come together the same way that Jaws does. It's not as good. It doesn't have the classic energy, but it's okay. I should mention that Peter Yates directs. Peter Yates is a real director. I have a video about Breaking Away. That's a great movie, a deep movie, unlike this one. The music is by John Barry. It's not particularly notable. Now, The Deep is from 1977, but it is not an understated 70s film, sadly. It does show some hints of being from 1977, slight hints, but they're there. It doesn't have as much exposition as it could. For instance, they jump right into the deep end, in a way. And, I don't know, there's some moments of 70s drama, some very small moments of it. There's 70s music, of course, but not really in a good way. And hey, maybe that white shirt isn't exploitation, but sexual liberation. Let me know if you believe that. If so, I've got a bridge to sell you. Believe it or not, the opening scene of The Deep is not even the most over-sexualized part of this movie. There is a scene later on where the couple are captured by the Bermudan gang, or maybe they're Haitian or something, after a truly nonsensical car chase. Let me lay this out for you. The couple are on motorbikes, they're riding along, and suddenly the bad guys pull out behind them in a big truck. Now, the couple on bikes doesn't seem to notice this, even though there's a huge truck right behind them. They don't hear it, or they don't see it, and they just keep riding along. This truck, what's the goal? I don't know. Maybe they're trying to run them down, take them by surprise. Well, but then they start honking. So I guess they're not trying to surprise them. It's a little unclear what they're trying to do. Bisset ends up getting trapped in between a truck and a hard place. She's sort of on the side of the truck, and there's a big cliff wall next to her, and they're whizzing along at top speed. Of course, Bisset could just step on the brake, and the truck would drive past her, and she would be fine, I guess. Doesn't think to do that. But eventually the couple do manage to, pull off onto some side street, and the truck keeps going and whizzes on by. But right behind it is a car with the rest of the bad guys, who were apparently hoping that this is exactly what would happen. This was all part of their plan, I guess. So then, they can pull off behind them and jump the couple. Whatever the logic of the scene is supposed to be, it didn't quite make it to the screen. Anyway, the couple are then taken to some lair, and Bisset is given a strip search. Why? I think you know why. There's basically no reason other than the obvious. Now, this is a pretty open-minded channel, but The Deep is a trash movie. Let's vote. I mean, yeah. It surprised me how trashy this film is. I guess if you'd seen the ad campaign for it, then you wouldn't be surprised at all. I don't know, Peter Yates. What were you doing, man? What were you doing? The film is also dated in other ways. The Deep is set in Bermuda. Let's separate this into two things. First, the locals. And second, the triangle. Now, to be fair, the film, it was shot on location in Bermuda, and there is some authenticity to it. There are some cool locations, but also the local gang, the bad guys, are a bit laughable. There's a voodoo element, and it's sort of typical 1970s stuff where it's almost trying to be groovy. It's almost trying to be National Geographic. Peter Benchley, by the way, he worked for National Geographic, and that's how he found himself working in Bermuda studying shipwrecks. That's what inspired this movie. I guess he was diving on those wrecks and thinking, how can I make this beautiful, profound thing exciting enough for the American public to care about? Anyway, so it seems like the movie thinks it's cool to feature this foreign culture, but it is exoticism at best. And let's face it, the bad guys, they don't come off very well, and the film doesn't hold up at all in this regard. Okay, now what about the Triangle? There were quite a few Bermuda Triangle movies in the 70s and in the 60s, movies and books too, and maybe this is another one. Frequent wrecks are somewhat key to the story, the idea that it's dangerous down there, that there's all these lost treasures. On the other hand, the Bermuda Triangle is never mentioned in the movie, and there's nothing supernatural in the film exactly, although in the beginning it sort of implies that there might be, but then these moments never quite go anywhere. I don't know. The Deep is not exactly authentic, but it is slightly salty. It is kind of a movie about boats and sailors and all this stuff. And you get the feeling that a lot of the characters in the film would not believe in the Bermuda Triangle, basically. And personally, I don't know. To me, it doesn't seem like that's really the focus of the movie. Okay. Just for fun, let me mention a few things that don't make any sense in this movie. Well, okay, just one. I already gave you a couple, but this was one thing that stuck out to me massively. So this gang that I mentioned, the bad guys, are apparently after this shipwreck to help them with some drug deal. And as soon as you learn this, the movie takes this weird moralistic turn. Oh, we can't allow these drugs to reach the streets of America. That's why we need to dive on this wreck. And believe it or not, there's nobody more concerned than Robert Shaw's character, who really, really just seems to hate drugs. This does not add up at all. This grizzled sailor who happens to be a member of the DARE program, otherwise, Shaw's character is morally ambiguous. For a long time, you don't really even know whose side he's on. That's kind of a defining characteristic. Can you trust him? I don't know. He follows his own code. He does his own stuff. But yeah, he really, really cares about drugs, apparently. The film is all over the place here. And then, I don't know, later he kind of swings back again. It really is muddled and not rigorous. The film is like this throughout. Of course, things don't have to be perfect. This is, an action movie, a horror movie. But there are a lot of parts that are distractingly undercooked, I would say. But I'm not here to rant. And there are also some nice things about the movie, to be fair. Technically speaking, the underwater photography is nice. There are a couple of moments where you see part of the camera rig, but generally they sell the underwater stuff completely, which is, I was kind of surprised actually. There's one angle that looks a little bit like a miniature, but otherwise it is convincing. You don't need James Cameron to make a movie underwater, it turns out. And they also don't overuse this underwater stuff. It doesn't feel like a gimmick, but it is a nice part of the movie. The sound underwater is suspenseful. Maybe they do a bit too much shouting underwater where real divers would have been using hand signals or something. But yeah, it's pretty convincing to me. The film does also capture some sense of adventure and some sense of historical mystery, the allure of a shipwreck, but also the tragedy of a shipwreck in some way. The film has action on multiple fronts. There's plenty to think about. There's plenty of plates spinning around, and it's fairly engaging. But does this make up for any of the downsides that I've mentioned? Not at all. And ultimately, the deep, hey, it left a bad taste in my mouth. And hey, I haven't even complained about how it gives sharks a bad name. Probably the most egregious thing about this film, though, is that I don't feel like I have that much to talk about. Here, it wasn't that interesting. So what are we even doing?